We had to prepare the children for going to Los Angeles and maybe finding the acid in the Kool-Aid, and so we had to prepare them ahead of time for what might happen and what they might encounter. And it was a very difficult decision for us to make, to introduce them to psychedelics as well, under one at a time, under controlled conditions, reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead or the Book of Tao or something to them, so they'd have a sense of what consciousness was. So if suddenly somebody put, acid in their Coca-Cola or something and tried to seduce them, they'd know they were stoned, and they'd know what to do, and they would have a sense of it.
You have written and stated in public that you do not believe that people should do psychedelic substances until they have matured into adulthood. But however, I would say, most of us wouldn't be here if we hadn't had these very important formative experiences with psychedelics as teenagers or, young adults, certainly before the age that you have in the past said was appropriate for such things. And so I would like to know, what's your view on that, and why do you think that way? Why do you take this elitist viewpoint that's kind of cutting off the experience of a lot of people?
Well, they asked for a challenging question.
Well, first of all, I'm an unashamed elitist, so aside from that, I was expressing the kind of feelings that any parent has. We also would love it if our kids wouldn't have sex before age 18 at the youngest, but it happens. When you are under the age of, say, 16, you haven't really lived that long. You haven't had time to find out what the core of yourself is. There are a tremendous number of questions, as well as a lot of hormones. And the psychedelics they are very important and sometimes very strong and hard-hitting tools for self-exploration. And you don't know what you're going to suddenly find yourself in. It might be the sorrow place, or the valley of the shadow of death, and that is exactly what it feels like. I think if you have a good babysitter and you have some idea of what it is you're looking for, then even a 16 or maybe exceptional 15-year-old could deal with it. But it's better if you wait a while until you've lived a little bit. And then you may find yourself less frightened, less panicked by the inevitable difficult places. And by difficult, I mean really, really difficult. It's just a preference.
I'd like to add one thing to that. As Anne says, however, there are 15, 16-year-olds who do these materials, and I think if it is going to be done by a younger person, it has become very essential to get factual information available, not prejudicial, not don't do it type of information, but here are the goods and here are the bads. Here is what you must watch for. This is what you should be attentive to. It'd be good to know the source of your material, because there are a lot of ugly things that are out there masquerading or being sold in place of reasonable psychedelic drugs. So if the person is going to use the drug, be in that experience, he or she should have information available to them and have it factually correct.
Which very seldom happens, unfortunately.
We have always told Zena the truth. Zena's our daughter. She's a teenager now, and a lot of her friends are experimenting with marijuana, and I don't think any of them are doing psychedelics yet, because she goes, she's got, I don't know, because of the school she goes to or whatever. But we've always told her the truth. We've never told her more than she wanted to know. We don't try to share everything about our lives. If she asks us a question, we answer it, fully, but not, to bore her to death. And she's always come to gatherings like this. She's taking her own vacation right now, but she, when she was very little, she saw Alex doing slide talks in which he talked about LSD and his experiences on drugs, and I think it just went over her head. I mean, you know, at a certain point she said, well, I know that you've tried, you know, she was really little, and she said, well, I know you've tried marijuana and stuff, but, you know, but no more than that. And I just went, okay. And I just I didn't say anything. It's like, that's kind of like what she wanted to believe.
Does anybody else want to say anything about the question?
My
of John?
solution, and I have 5 kids, was to do drugs with them when they were of age. I was about 16 years old. We did mushrooms. I did mushrooms with all of them, one at a time. And they're adults today, and they do not have any drug problem whatsoever. And they're all fine, upstanding, beautiful, wonderful people. So the idea there is to be open with them, explain it to them, and I think it takes care of itself from that point on.
Do you feel there's an appropriate age to start using psychedelics or any mind-altering substances?
Me or?
Well, just...
All of us.
Yeah.
What do you think? I don't think it's like when you're you're ready. I think it's more when you're it's about your mind, and when you're ready mentally, then you can do it. I mean, if you're okay with taking it on, then you'll know. I don't think you should do it very young, though.
I had thought you know, in my mind the number 16 came up as she was growing up, but then because kids her age and her group start so young, when she was 15 she was the only one that hadn't tried it. She was the non-drug user until recently when she tried it just a couple of times. So.
A leg break on it? Do you know what it broke?
No, the guy just said he heard it making a clanking sound.
But it makes a clanking sound. It goes.
It made a difference. Made a bad clanking sound.
You mean not like that? Like that?
I don't know, because I didn't know the difference between a good clanking sound and a bad clanking sound.
Are we gonna hop on?
Yep.
For the young psychonaut interested in all mind states matters, can you suggest possible careers, academic, scientific, political? That I'm going to throw to you. Or all three?
Or all three, yeah. I get asked this question quite frequently. I want to get into the area you're working in, into the area of scientific exploration, discovering of new things, creating of new drugs, finding out why they work, how they can be used. My recommendation almost always goes back in much the same thing. Get into the academic world, get your bachelor's degree. It doesn't really primarily matter what topic it's in. Get into a graduate school, get your doctorate degree. It almost doesn't matter what topic it is in. But get that PhD, and then it's good if you want to get into chemistry, maybe something in chemistry or biochemistry would be good. But get that degree, because that is then the signature in your society that you're not here, but you're here. And that it doesn't, as long as that PhD is there, you are, in essence, a little bit more of a voice. Then you can find perhaps a graduate advisor, take a postdoc somewhere, and they learn the tools of research. Don't necessarily impose your hopes on another person. The man who's going to be or the professor who's going to be your advisor has his own plans, his own ideas. Learn from him the skills, the mechanics, the machinery of research. Then you're in a position to say, well, I think I want to go in the way I want to go. I've learned the tools of chemistry. I've learned the tools of pharmacology. I'm now familiar with the tools of research. Then you can begin finding your own location and following your own questions. Then you, of course, have to find your own funds. There are many mysteries that come along, but you have the background of a qualified training, and you have the background of academic degrees that make you have a voice that can be heard when you're trying to locate funds and answer questions. So I think the academic world is probably the best one I would recommend, and pursue it to the point of becoming recognized as having achieved a success there.